I've enrolled over 5,000 clients in the last 10 years. And in this video, I'm going to walk you through the fundamental skill that, in my opinion, has been the 5% that's produced 95% of my results when it comes to getting and keeping clients. And I wasn't born with the skill. I mean, nobody's born with the skill. In fact, 15 years ago, I started my first career and I was a fireman. And long story short, I got electrocuted in a house fire. In fact, I almost died. Like, and I spent three days in the hospital, and when I got out, I felt like I had a second chance at life. And I think, as most of us, right, we're helping people, we're experts, we're teaching people our passion. We have our origin story. For me, it was this, and that's when I dove into learning my first skill, which is not this skill, but it was the thing that started the journey for me, and it was fitness. I got myself really in shape. I learned everything about working out, nutrition, behavior change, and I realized I wanted to go deeper into this. So I left the fire department and I started to work at a big box gym as a personal trainer. I learned a little bit about marketing and sales skills, and so I wanted to start my own boot camp. And so I then started my own boot camp in a local park in South Florida, and I built it to 40 members. And I was like, all right, I want to start my own fitness center. And so I did, and I built a fitness center over the course of 8 years to a base of 300 members. We served a couple thousand people during that time. And this is where it really starts to take life. This is where I really started to learn this core fundamental skill. It was around 2018. I wanted to launch my first online fitness product. It was a follow along workout program. And I was like, dude, this is the thing that's going to make me rich. I'm going to help millions of people. Let's go. Spoiler alert, is a tragic failure. Tragic failure. And the reason was, and this is a lesson for another day, but I didn't actually look at what the market needed. I was just trying to put something out there. And so the market didn't want it and it flopped. And so I pivoted in 2019. I started my first online coaching program. And this is where things started to take life. Now, I was posting every single day, and I want you to pay close attention to this because I see this more prominent today. This is more of an issue today than it was back then. But I was posting every day. I was going live on Facebook and Instagram pretty much daily. I was running ads. I was doing all the things that they say you should do, and I was getting some decent engagement after about 4 or 5 months. Like, it started crickets, and then it started to build up, and I was getting people liking my stuff. I was getting people that would, like, comment and be like, "You're so motivating," like, "Ah," but I wasn't consistently getting people to buy my stuff. Like, I would have to work really hard during that time, like, to generate, like, 10 grand or 15 grand, I think was, like, my record month around it was, like, 17 grand was my record month. But then, like, it would go all the way back down. I would struggle to just make a few $1,000s. And I had a new family at the time. I just, had 2 young kids under the age of 3. I was really trying to make things happen, and I just remember being like, "Dude, what gives?" And one day, I made a post, and this was a complete accident. Like, I accidentally discovered the skill that I'm about to walk you through because this wasn't on purpose. I'm sure it was an accumulation. Like, I had a lot of mentors. I was reading a lot of books during that time. So I'm sure, like, something, like, subconsciously, sat in. But I made this post and it didn't go viral or anything, but it did get about 180 comments on Facebook, and I had 13 or 14 people that DM'd me asking about my program. And I was like, like, I wonder if this is just a fluke. Like, I was skeptical over my own stuff. I was like, I don't know if this is actually going to work again. I think this is the fluke. So about a week later, I tested it again, and sure enough, it didn't get the same level of engagement, but it got similar results. I had a handful of people DM me, and then so I was like, all right. 2 weeks later, I tried it again, similar style post, and I'm going to share with you like what I did here in a second, but it got similar results. And so within a 30-day time period, I had signed up 11 clients and generated $33,383 in cash. It was my biggest month to date. And I had realized at that point, I was like, something like, I realized that I felt like I had cracked the code. I finally figured out what I was missing. Why before my ad, like none of my marketing was truly working. And I had finally figured it out. And I knew, like, I had to go deeper, and so I ended up developing up a framework, now I call magic messaging, and you'll see why in a second, to where I was able to make this repeatable. And so, while we're gonna dive in, we're gonna break down the skill here in a second, it all comes down to this. attention is cheap. Attention is cheap right now. Like I can literally run around butt naked in my backyard, quacking like a duck, barking like a dog, put the camera on me, post it on Instagram, and I'll get attention. Granted, it's gonna be the freaking wrong attention, probably, but I can get attention. It's not that hard to get attention. You could pay for it, you could boost a reel, you can get people to like your stuff, right? You can get that. It's about creating demand, not just getting attention. I want you to hear me here. It's about creating demand. What I learned during that period where I started to generate lots of demand, it was because of one fundamental skill. And that skill is your ability to shift beliefs, your ability to influence humans, your humans, the people you want to serve, to take action. In fact, this is so important nowadays because Google, you know them, Google, they recently did a study that shows there's 1.2 billion posts being published every day on the internet. Needless to say, information itself is a commodity. People can go into Google, ChatGPT, Claude, whatever their flavor is, and they could type in, how do I lose 10 pounds? Or how do I get leads? Or whatever. And they can get answers to their questions in seconds. The problem for them is implementation, right? Information is there. And so if your marketing is heavily focusing on information, if you are trying to just run more ads and sending people to an information like lead magnet, and you're trying to just book calls in your DMs or sending somebody just to a sales page, you're missing a huge mark because you are not actually shifting beliefs. And in fact, there are 8 core beliefs that I've learned that you have to shift in order to get a stranger on the internet to become a raving, motivated buyer of yours. And I actually did a full workshop on this. If you want to go deeper, a link will be in the description, where I walk through these 8 core beliefs in details, a 90-minute workshop with a full playbook on how you can actually create pre-sold buyers from your marketing, which you can check that out if you want to go deeper. But here's where it gets interesting. And this is where I want to help you unpack today so you can start to apply this stuff directly into your marketing. And so if we know now that belief shifting, it's like you got to go from educating to shifting beliefs. You got to go from informing people to shifting perspectives. You've got to go from just getting attention to creating demand. And so how you actually make this start happening is I want you to think about this through the lens of a funnel. You have top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel. The magic, the money for you, the clients, all the success is going to fall in that middle of funnel, at least in my experience. And so top of funnel is going to be things like your Facebook or your Instagram. This might be like you posting and getting lots of attention right now, or you boosting a reel, or you running an ad. You can get the attention top of funnel, right? Where for me, and this is what I learned back in the story I was just telling you when I figured this out, is instead of just getting attention, yes, we all need to get attention. If you're a business owner, you've got to have lead generation coming in. But where people are missing the mark is they're not shifting beliefs top of funnel. And so the couple beliefs that you really need to focus on shifting top of funnel are going to be around the problem that they think they have, and around you need to get them to doubt their current approach. And so a simple example of this in weight loss, this is what I used back then. Actually, this is the exact one, was that everybody thought that they needed to just diet or eat less, right? Or whatever. And so they were doing that. And that's what they thought their problem was. I need a better diet. I just need to dial in my nutrition, not blah, 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 blah. And I got them to believe that they needed to eat right, not just healthy. That eating healthy, they can eat an apple a day and it's going to make the doctor come. It's not going to give the doctor away. They need to learn how to eat right. And then I introduced a new problem to them. And then, and again, in the playbook that I have in the link in the description, I walk through different tools that you can use to be able to shift their beliefs and all that, like how to do it through storytelling and other means. But I got people to believe they needed to eat right. So I introduced a new problem. So they were like, well, how do I eat right? My problem is I don't know how to eat right. And so I would then get them to doubt their current approach. So if you're currently dieting and trying to do cardio and all of this stuff and it's not working, now I would get them to doubt their current approach. You need to do it this way, right? So That's a huge thing if you focus on top of funnel and you really develop the skill of shifting people's beliefs that way. And the easiest way to do that is through storytelling. There's other tools that you need to do. You need to like what I call create a crack, which is like metaphorically creating a crack in their head so you can insert the new belief. And again, there's tools on how to do that in the playbook. But the second, if we go down to middle of the funnel, a core belief that you need to shift. And for context, I've consulted in, 6, 7, and even 8-figure companies where they'll have these like CRMs, go high level pipelines or HubSpot pipelines or email list, or they'll even have Instagram followings of a couple 100,000 followers in some cases. And they're like over here focusing still on running ads, top of funnel. And I'm like, homie, what are you doing? And we'll literally go into their CRM or their email list or their Instagram following, and I'll show them how to double or even sometimes triple their sales just from middle of funnel. So your middle of funnel is where a lot of cash lives. And where most people are still operating is in this like mindset of leads either buy or they die. And so a lot of people have these leads that are in their Instagram or their Facebook or their email list that are rotting on the digital list and dying miserable deaths when you can save them. You can help them. You can generate cash and actually create transformation in people if you know how to shift beliefs, if you know how to influence. And so some of the beliefs that you have to shift in the middle of funnel are going to be around your vehicle. Why is your way of doing things, whatever you call it, your method, your unique mechanism, how is it categorically different than what they have ever tried before? So an example is when in my world now is I teach a lot of people how to not just like post content, but how to shift people's beliefs. What I call magic messaging. That's my mechanism. And I teach people how to say the right words in the right way, in the right order, and to the right people. And then how they sequence that, how they essentially distribute it within their content. So that way they can get more pre-sold buyers. That is my way. And it's categorically different than what most people tried because it's my methodology. I came up with it, through 12 years of experience. How is your way categorically different? And maybe it's not, right? I didn't invent belief shifting. It's been around since the dawn of time. But I've created my own way of doing things through my own experience. And so I can then tell stories about it that make it categorically different than anything anybody's ever tried. And so you can do the same, right? When I was running my fitness business, I had a process called the stubborn fat solution, where I had my own methodology of fitness, nutrition, and habit formation. And it was categorically different than anything, even though the fundamentals are the same. I had to communicate how it's different. So when you could shift people's beliefs middle of funnel around that, and there's more that you have to shift, but that's a big one, you will start getting more people to want to buy from you. And then you got bottom of funnel. So bottom of funnel is going to be like your sales calls or any type of what I would call conversion event. Maybe you're running a challenge or a workshop, or you have a landing, a sales page or a video sales letter. Anytime where you're making a pitch, if you will, you want to be able to shift beliefs around investment, cost of inaction, and cost of buying from you. You know what I mean? Like are like spending money and spending time. You got to get them to see why now is the right time. And you got to sell yourself. Like people are gonna they need to trust you. And again, I have tools on how you're able to do that. But the easiest way to sell yourself is just tell your story. Like people are either gonna vibe with you or they're not, and you can't control that. You just be you, tell your story. Be you, boo. That's all you gotta do. So when you could show up and you can learn that it's not just about getting attention, it's pretty easy to get in our day and age, but it's about creating demand. And the way you go about creating demand is through shifting beliefs. And then when you can then be able to say the right words in the right way, in the right order, to the right people, and you plug that in top of funnel, middle of funnel, and the bottom of funnel, you will be able to literally move people through the funnel, and you will be able to create, in my experience, a lot of enrolled clients because you're getting more people pre-sold versus what most people are doing now is they're playing the chase game. They're playing the vanity metric game. They're playing the fighting for attention game. And I'll end this with an analogy. I want you to think about all of this. Imagine you're in Times Square and everybody's yelling. Everybody's yelling, right? And everybody's looking around. It's big confusion. But if you had a dog whistle and you were blowing the dog whistle, the only people that will hear you are dogs. And so at the core of all of this is you need to make sure that when you are shifting beliefs, when you are creating demand, that you're doing it in a way that the right people hear it. And when you can do that, and when you could develop the skill around that, I was going to say anything you want is possible, which is true, but more specifically, you will find that you will get way more pre-sold buyers in your DMs, you'll get way more people enrolled in your programs. And that's a skill that's changed everything in my life. And I hope it does for you too. If you found this video helpful, click subscribe for some more. Leave a comment down below. I would love to know your biggest takeaway today. And again, if you want to go through the full 8 core beliefs workshop where I do a 90-minute workshop breaking this down in depth, and you want the full playbook with all of the tools and even example frameworks, example like real-time posts of like how I did this in real time, go ahead and click the link down below and go deeper. Bye for now.